What's going on, everyone? It is the Derf, and in today's video I am bringing you an awesome Strand Titan build that you can take into virtually any activity and know you're going to absolutely wreck the battlefield with. Listen, Titans, I know you guys have been struggling to find some good builds this season. We don't have the love that we had last season when Arc was all the craze, but fear not, this build is an absolute powerhouse. You're going to deal huge damage numbers, you're going to basically print orbs of power, and oh, by the way, you're going to be able to spam your super and have virtually unlimited healing every activity you are in. So if you've been looking for a great Titan Strand build, this video is for you. And oh, by the way, if you do find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing and sharing with a Titan in need. Let's get it going. So one quick caveat to the gameplay that you just saw. None of my armor was masterwork. The unstable core farm is especially grindy. So if you know, you know, especially if you all play 3 characters like I do. So once you get your armor masterworked, all of your regens and your stats and everything will be even better in this build that I'm going to show you. So to get us started, we of course run around with the Blade Fury, still one of the most satisfying Titan supers to use, and because it is a roaming super, we can generate it extremely quickly, especially when we spec into the artifact like we're going to be doing. For abilities, I prefer using the Rally Barricade so I can shoot over it, the Strafe Lift, the Frenzied Blade, and for the grenade of choice, we're going to be using grapple. Now, we're not going to be spamming our frenzy blade. We're instead going to be trying to spam our grapple. More grapple power means you can do your grapple melees more often, which causes huge AoE damage, and it specs right into our exotic armor. For aspects, first up is Banner of War. Defeat a target with a melee attack finisher or sword to raise a Banner of War that pulses with energy, periodically healing nearby allies and increasing melee and sword damage. Targets defeated by you and nearby allies charge the banner or charge the barrier, increasing the speed of its pulses. So we don't have a lot of ways to generate health in Strand in general. Banner of War is the happy medium between just having damage resistance and having damage resistance plus a little bit of healing coming back to us. Next up, we're going to use Fletchet Storm. While sliding, activate your charge melee ability to leap into the air, knocking nearby targets away and dealing damage. While airborne, activate your charge melee again to launch a cluster of damaging, unraveling projectiles. Repeatedly activating melee will chain additional throws. You don't often see me using Fletchet Storm in my Titan builds. I typically really love using Into the Fray. However, this build is extremely potent with Fletchet Storm. If you haven't messed around with Fletchet Storm or you haven't caught any other videos out there talking about this aspect this season, I encourage you, put this on, start experimenting with it, and you're going to see just how ridiculous this aspect is this season. Plus, again, unraveling rounds pierce the shields of barrier champs and stun them. So keep that in mind. This build is going to encompass everything you love about Titans, plus give you the ability to deal with all 3 champs. For fragments, first up is Threat of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power will grant us Woven Mail, minus 10 to health. So if you're struggling like I am with health, you might want to try to get a little bit better armor roll than what I've got. But otherwise, this is going to be key. We need Woven Mail as often as possible. Next up is going to be Thread of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, Weapon Final Blows create a Tangle. Again, we're speccing into tangles and grapples. So as you progress through your activities that you find yourself in, the more tangles you use, the more grapples you use, the more chaos you get, and of course, the more powerful you become. Next up, we have Thread of Fury. Damaging targets with the Tangle grants melee energy. So we're going to double down on getting our melee energy. This is just one of the many ways, well, maybe not the word many, but one of multiple ways we're going to be able to spam our Frenzy Blade, even with the multiple charges that we're going to have on our Frenzy Blade and using them as often as we want with our Fletchet Storm, we're still going to have at least 2 to 3 charges at all times for our Frenzy Blade. And no, that's not a joke. And again, I don't even have maxed masterworked armor. And that's going to be even more key when you get into this build and maybe decide, hey, I want to try to spec my armor into this style of play. Trust me, it's going to be fun. Next up, we have Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. -10 to grenade, but that is literally not going to slow us down at all. Our key here is being able to spam our grapple melee as often as possible. And once we get to the weapons and then eventually the artifact, you're going to see that generating enough damage to basically get your grapple back in almost no time is going to be extremely easy, because we're going to spec heavily into strand specific perks inside of the artifact. For stat distribution, I recommend having a healthy blend between weapons, grenade, and super. The exact order is kind of up to you. You want to try to get around 100 in weapons, at least 100 in weapons, so you get that extra bonus damage. And then grenade and super, you can see I here have 92 and 95. Once I masterwork the gear finally after upgrading my my armor, I will be able to have at least 2 100s, probably in super first, and then I don't know if I'm going to quite get to 100 in grenade, but it's really not going to matter. You'll notice that my melee is pretty low, 48, but remember, we're going to get an extra charge to our Frenzy Blade thanks to our exotic armor, and we're already going to be generating a ton of melee energy back, because when we chuck a tangle at an enemy, we're going to get melee energy back from doing that. Again, just for reference here, while you have woven mail, weapon final blows create a tangle, and damaging targets with a tangle grants melee energy. So yes, it's kind of a bummer that I have this as low as it is. Potentially you might have better melee stats. If you can get this to a 70, I think that would be ideal. For weapons, the only weapon I think you're probably going to want to spec into heavily is going to be Quicksilver Storm. While it is not yet a featured weapon, Quicksilver Storm has the grenade chaser, which is really nice. You can generate tangles that way. And then missile tracers, which are micro missiles. This weapon, I wasn't expecting to have as much potency, given the fact that it doesn't get additional damage buffs with the artifact. However, I was not disappointed, and there's one other little added aspect to this that we're going to get to once we get into the artifact that's going to be a really nice kind of cherry on top to the build that we're building. So Quicksilver Storm, easy weapon to get if you haven't gotten it before, or really even played with it, or even pulled it out for this season, but we're going to be speccing into it because of the missile tracers. Other options that might work well, Mint Retrograde is going to be up there. You can see I've got a roll here, Slice and Hatchling. That's going to be ridiculous for this build as well. Tons of chaos. You're going to be using your class ability enough to take advantage of Slice. But I guess if you really want to, you could spec into Bait and Switch and give yourself some additional damage during a DPS round, or possibly to waste a champ. In a pinch, Final Warning and New Malpais will work. However, New Malpais does not synergize with the missile artifact perk bump. So just keep that in mind when you're picking New Malpais. And then Final Warning is good if you're going to be going into an activity where you want to unravel everything on cue. Final Warning, always fun to use, doesn't really fit for what we're trying to do, kind of. But again, those hits against marked targets deal increased damage, have a chance to refund ammo to the magazine, and you're going to be able to unravel basically everything in your path. For the energy weapon, it's going to be completely up to you what you want to use. So I've got 4 ideas that might work very well for you depending on your needs. First up would be Stars and Shadow. Heal Clip and Burning Ambition is nice to pair because of additional tick damage you get from scorching targets. It also hits like a truck, which is a benefit in and of itself. Red Death Reformed, if you want more healing, final blows with this weapon cure you and increase reload speed. This might be good during a particularly sweaty, encounter or strike where maybe you need to catch your breath a little bit. So constantly reloading with Red Death Reform will help you stay alive. And if you've already got your banner procced, it's going to add to the pulses. And of course, if you're pinned down, chances are your fire team members are pinned down with you. So you're going to get increased energy back beyond even what the norm is if you're solo. Next up would be either Polaris Lance or possibly Third Iteration. Now, these would be choice uses. If you are going to be going through a conquest, for example, or something where you're going to be going kind of slow or maybe picking off beefier enemies from a distance and then bull rushing the remaining yellow bar ads or whatever, Polaris Lance or Third Iteration might be good options, even on like distant bosses. When you get to the end of a strike or whatever, you can slowly whittle them down. And since they synergize with the barrier pierce option inside the artifact, you're going to be able to constantly proc additional damage regardless of shields or not. For the heavy weapon, I'm going to give you 3 options. All 3 of these options will work very well. The new rocket launcher will work very well. Get yourself one that's got auto-loading holster. That's pretty much the only requirement. I have binary orbit, but I don't really, take advantage of that too much. I'm mainly interested in getting, one shot, then I move on with my life. And then once it reloads, I pull it out and use it again. Another good one to use would be the Cynosure. I think that's how you pronounce it. You can see I haven't used it much this season, but if you've got one with Reconstruction and Explosive Light, you're pretty much always going to have Explosive Light maxed out in terms of additional damage, which could be key and make up for the damage boost that you would ordinarily get from the artifact for being a feature weapon, which this obviously is not. And then last but not least, Pro Memoria. You know me, you love, if you know me, you know I love Pro Memoria. The bait and switch reconstruction gives you an extra 30% damage for, I think it's 8 seconds. Someone can fact check me on that. I think it's 8 seconds. And you can refresh it, within 1 second. Cause damage with both other weapons, jump onto Pro Memoria, and bam, you're doing 30% damage for 8 seconds at 600 rounds a minute, and it's super easy to control. So let's talk about our exotic armor, Wishful Ignorance. There's a lot of exotic armors that I would use when using a Banner Titan. Certainly Stronghold comes to mind. Synthoceps comes to mind as well. And then there's other ones, when you're using Warlock and potentially Hunter. Wishful Ignorance, it's not like I'm the first person to come up with a build for Wishful Ignorance. But again, you notice I don't even have this upgraded even one masterwork. So Wishful Ignorance main perk here. Wish Dragon's Talon. Gain an additional Frenzy Blade charge. Frenzy Blade and Fletched Storm briefly increase their damage with each strike. Pulses from your Banner of War return melee energy based on the number of allies healed. So if you're running around with your buddies and you want to just cause ridiculous amounts of chaos and strand debuff, and oh, by the way, you heal allies at the same time and get increased melee regeneration, altogether, it's not really going to matter if your melee energy is sitting at where I'm at, which is about a 50. In fact, if you're up around a 70, this is going to be even more ridiculous than it already is. And again, you saw the gameplay at the beginning. It's not like I was hurting for Frenzy Blade charges. Okay, you saw the lower left-hand corner. It wasn't like I was ever empty. So when you're running around the battlefield, the last thing you want to be thinking about is, oh man, I got to take it easy for a couple seconds because I don't have this or that, whatever. You have your grapple grenade, you have your frenzy blade, you have your banner of war, and oh, by the way, that's just the abilities and aspects. You still have the threadlings that spawn, you're still going to have the tangles that spawn, you're still going to be able to dump additional damage into both of those because of the artifact. And if that's not enough, it is the cherry on top is that this is a featured exotic armor, so you get an additional damage reduction on top of the healing pulse that is your banner of war. So a lot of good things with just one. And again, this isn't even like the best roll out there. I got a Paragon with super melee health. I mean, I don't really, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in love with that role. Certainly with the plus 10 mod buff, I'm sitting at a 71, so you know the stats are low, and I'm not complaining one bit. I've got enough of everything to keep myself in the fight. Yes, my health could be a little bit higher, but again, I don't have any of these masterwork. So, you know, once those get masterwork, this is going to sit probably around a 25, maybe even 30. Just kind of depends. I don't remember exactly where the stats fall on all this. And then once my other abilities get to different tiers, I might be able to take off mods and switch it over to health to give myself some additional resistance to, you know, the enemies that I might be coming across. But this, if you have never messed around with wishful ignorance, and some of this is based on whether or not you have ever tried Fletchet Storm, because everyone knows what Frenzy Blade feels like. Fletchet Storm is essentially the Strand Titan version of Lightning Surge for Warlock. If those Warlocks out there that might be watching this video going, yeah, I'm never going to try Titan. Titan sucks. Warlock for life. I get it. You know, if you like what you like, fan how you fan. I'm never going to tell anyone that any class is not worth grinding for, because if you have fun, that's the name of the game. And if you are powerful on the battlefield and you help your allies, it doesn't matter what character you are. But give Wishful Ignorance a try and get used to using Fletchet Storm, because it's pretty ridiculous the way that this works. And because this is so much similar to the Lightning Surge on Warlock, Warlocks are probably going to be able to get used to this the quickest if you've never tried this before. As far as the rest of the armor goes, go ahead and spec into whatever general armor mod that you need. In the helmet, make sure you have a heavy ammo finder on, so you always have heavy ammo for your rocket launcher and or your Promemoria. Me personally, I have 2 dual harmonic siphons. My main goal is to spam the rocket tracers, the micro tracers, whatever you want to call them. I'm not really concerned about creating orbs of power with anything other than my grapple melee and my main strand weapons, because they're going to be doing the bulk of the damage anyways. The pulse rifle or the scout rifle is just there for tick damage and or barrier pierce options. So again, if you're not going to be seeing barriers, you can switch it up as well. But put on 2 harmonic siphons. You could make an argument if you're using Mint Retrograde to put on a oh my goodness, what's the word? A special ammo finder. You know, right next to your heavy ammo finder. But it really just depends on what you're doing. For the gauntlets, I have 1 heavy-handed, which is a 10-second cooldown between orbs of power, and then I have 2 impact deductions. You could make an argument to put on a second heavy-handed and only 1 impact deduction. That might actually work better. I didn't actually try it with that. This was my first go with it, and I was really liking how my abilities were regenerating as fast as I wanted them to. And again, I'm not max power with this build anyways, because none of my stuff is masterworked. So I know if I keep continuing to level up and I keep getting those unstable cores and I keep, you know, leveling up the actual gear and eventually masterworking it, this build is going to be even better than what it already feels like. So this is going to be a choice decision, you know, for some of the Guardians out there who have been messing with Titan all season and might not be struggling with the unstable core farm for the Titan because, hey, you've been leveling up gradually as you've been going through the power grind. For the chest armor, go ahead and put on 2 elemental resistance mods. And I really like the strand ammo generation mod because I want to have max rocket or machine gun ammo available at all times. But you could switch this out if you're not worried about that, since we are spamming our Quicksilver Storm so much. You could switch this out for 3rd elemental resistance. And in this case, I would recommend Arc. So you have Solar, Void, and Arc. Unless you're going into the Pale Heart, which nobody even goes there anymore, so I'm not really worried about people saying, what about the Pale Heart? How you have it set up, or how we have it set up right here, is going to be plenty good for portal activities and the power grind. For the legs, go ahead and put on Innervation, Invigoration, and Absolution. You might be able to make an argument for double Innervation, or I guess even double Invigoration, or I guess even double Absolution. You really can't go wrong because your abilities are coming back to you so quickly. Any little extra bump, I mean, a 5% bump, it's like, it is only a 5% bump. Let's just call it what it is, or 7% or whatever it is. But when your cooldowns are already 40 seconds or 30 seconds or 20 seconds between certain ability usage, I mean, any amount of seconds off of that turns 7% into, near like instant refresh, which I know it's not really like that. So don't kill me in the comments about that, but you guys know what I mean. Any additional ability regen tick in your favor is going to just feel like you're just never out of options. And that's kind of what this build is all about. Last but not least, a class item, go ahead and put on Reaper, class font, and bomber. Remember, class font, 1 overpower gets you a plus 20, so my 50 turns into 70. So that's a pretty nice boost. 105, 70, 95, and 92. And I still haven't even masterworked any of this, so that could go higher, maybe 55, 60. 95 to maybe 100, 102, and then grenade maybe 92 to 102, somewhere in there. And of course, my melee is going to be even closer to 70. And again, those who have been playing Titan all season, you probably have different rolls of armor that you can roll in with and be, pretty powerful with what you got. You can switch this around. You might even be able to pull out maybe like 2 100s and 2 80s, or maybe 2 100s and 2 90s. Heck, you might even have the best, rolls available, and you might be able to swing 400s and just be able to dump your additional armor buff mods into, let's say, class or health or whatever you want. So you guys will be further along than I am because, again, I've been playing Titan all season. But, I'm trying to make sure that I give everyone that watches me and trust me for build advice and things like that. I want to make sure that I'm at least giving you guys something, even in a character that I don't normally play. And again, I know Titan is a really great character to play. I just been sitting on Warlock for most of it, so I apologize, but we're addressing that here with this video and in future videos. For the artifact, there's going to be one theme and one theme only with the artifact mods, and that's going to be we're diving into everything strand or strand buff. I am not concerned with literally anything else, so let's get into it. So anti-barrier scout and pulse rifle, that goes without saying, you need that for the barrier champs. Unstoppable sidearm and hand cannon. Look, if you want to switch out a Quicksilver and you don't want to take advantage of the micro missiles, that's up to you. But don't forget that special ammo sidearms still exist, and there are some new ones that can deal some pretty significant damage in a build like this. And then make sure you have overload rapid fire so you can stun those pesky overload champs. In the second column, you want tightly woven because I want my class ability and grenade stats back even faster. And then Threadling Proliferation, dealing strand weapon damage, has the chance to spawn a Threadling. Defeating a strand above target increases this chance. So pretty much you're going to have the most increased chances available for pretty much every enemy that you go up against, especially in Grandmaster, where virtually every enemy is going to get a strand debuff because they don't just one-shot die like they do in lower level difficulty. In the third column, pack tactics and refresh threads, picking up an elemental pickup, matching your subclass element or tangle while you have strand, grants energy to your least charge ability. So, hello melee, that's going to be my least charge ability pretty much at all times. And then pack tactics, dealing damage with threadlings increases threadling damage at maximum stacks. Threadlings stun unstoppable champions. So, yes, technically we don't have a way to stun unstoppable champions with what we have so far. But pack tactics is going to put that to rest pretty darn quick. All right, the fourth column is one of the best columns to talk about. Threaded Blast, destroying a tangle with strand damage increases the radius of explosion and its damage. That's a winner. Elemental Coalescence, defeating targets, has a chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super. You could make the argument, to switch Elemental Coalescence out for Elemental Benevolence, since you will have Banner going at all times. But I think Elemental Coalescence will win this one. And then last but not least, Energy Acceleration. Sustained damage from micro missiles causes the combatant to emit a kinetic shockwave that damages nearby targets. So this effectively gives you kinetic tremors on your Quicksilver Storm. So yes, you don't get the additional damage buff from it being a featured weapon. However, you do get kinetic tremors as a result of using this weapon, especially at higher end content, because guess what? You're going to be dumping enough rounds into every enemy, basically, to proc this. So it's a win-win. Last but not least, we're going to go with Shield Crush. While you have Woven Mail or Avoid Over Shield or Frost Armor, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. Yes, that includes your grapple melee. And then Elemental Overdrive rounds it out. Picking up an elemental pickup or tangle grants increased damage to weapons of the same element. So you have ways to dump damage on top of damage on top of damage. And this artifact, there's very few of these perks that don't have anything to do with Strand if you think about it. Even the ones that don't have Strand specifically mentioned really double down on the ability and the weapon spam you can do damage-wise with your Strand abilities. And especially on Titan with Wishful Ignorance, it's pretty remarkable how it all synergizes together, and you really don't have to do that much. So that's the build. Let me know in the comments what you would change or what your feedback is on how I've got it set up. Let me know what your stat distribution is and how you've maximized your Strand Banner Titan. I love Banner Titan. I've always loved Titan. I just haven't been playing as much because those unstable cores are very pesky to get, and I've been trying like heck to get my Warlock up to the max so I can switch over to Titan, but I've gotten so many requests for Titan builds that I didn't want to just go the whole season, you know, acting like I didn't hear those. I definitely did, and I've been meaning to get this build out sooner, so I do apologize. But if you guys did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who is looking for a great Strand build or maybe a good Titan build or something they can take into Endgame or any of the combinations above, or maybe this is a build that you haven't tried before and you think, hey, me and a buddy could run this together, this would be a great thing to tag team some, you know, harder portal activities with, it absolutely would. Make sure you share this video with them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. As always, I will have a dim link in the video description. And if by chance you guys are looking for a non-toxic gaming community so that you can farm for better weapon rolls or maybe you know, unstable cores and things like that, feel free to hop into my Discord. It is super active and people are still on the proverbial power grind and always looking to try to help other Guardians, and that's what makes the community so great. So shout out to my Discord for being so welcoming. It's been booming as of late, and I hope that I can continue to help and spread as much positivity in Destiny 2 as possible within the community. Alrighty, so like I said in the beginning of the video, most of my armor was not masterwork during the build testing of this build, and it was still absolutely wrecking. So this build is legit in virtually every difficulty. Look, I'm just going to say it. Titans, you guys got kind of disrespected this season. Every favorite Titan build that I had last season, even my Stronghold Titan build, got kind of a nerf this season, and it's made for some relatively clunky gameplay. So if you are a Titan main, you've probably been feeling the pain this season. Arc was all the rage last season, and believe me, I spammed it as much as anybody. But this season, even the Arc Titan just doesn't quite feel as ridiculous as it once did. And, you know, there's been some issues with synergy and, of course, you know, the unstable core farm for leveling up. And when you pair all that with a Titan that feels like it's just, you know, not firing in all cylinders, builds like this with your Strand Banner of War Titan really are ones that you can crutch on to get you where you want to be in the proverbial power grind. So anyways, hopefully you guys liked the video. Let me know in the comments what you would change up or how you've been enjoying your Titan this season. And if you do find anything helpful in this video, hopefully you guys like and subscribe, but more importantly, send this video to a Guardian in need. My goal is to help as many people as possible. So I will see you guys next time. Thanks as always for your support. Take care.